Yo.
What up, dude?
What's going on?
And can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Sweet. How loud am I? Am I good? Am I good? Am I copacetic? Yeah, alright. Check, can you talk for a sec?
Sorry, 1 second. Yo.
Yo.
Is it working?
It's working. We have success. How is this? Alright. Hold on. I gotta give the direct link to Mike. There we go.
I feel like I need some more shit in the background.
Distract them with flashy lights.
Oh, I got stuff in the background.
Okay, now I got the spinning wheel of color. Uh-oh.
You're good.
Are you on your laptop, Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Success.
Jeez.
Nice.
Oh, you have video games running there, dude.
Yeah. I got all sorts of funky shit. Who's one of your guys'
Who's that?
chat is bringing? That might be... Actually, Mike, check your chat, because I think I accidentally sent it to you again.
Oh.
There.
Yelling at me.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
So,
okay.
yeah, the dealio is like... This is really cool. So, it's basically like live stream, but it's straight to YouTube.
Okay.
And you can do screen share off of here as well. So, like, I can do... And the idea is... Holy crap, hold on. Let me close the window.
Well, hey, Dol, have you done the screen share trick to control the laptop from the live, or control the computer from the live floor?
I haven't had to do that yet. I'm still old school. I just run over.
You're gonna laugh. I was here today and I had to do some harmonies. Mike's out on the live floor. Recording chains here. So it's not a big deal. I put on a screen share so I can start and stop from out there. But it's like, damn, I don't know if I've gain staged it right. How am I going to deal with this? iPhone. Chair with bungee cords in the back. Here, let's just look at that. The bungee cord-esque chair.
Oh, that's awesome.
Put iPhone in bungee cords. Put on video camera. Point at the Focusrite. Run out, sing. Come back. Watch the video and, yeah, okay, no clip, we're good. I know that's so geeky, but I was like, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, if you can, you do. So.
Well, exactly. It's like you got to get it done.
I like the idea of using like iPads and iPhones for controlling stuff
for
like
extra
that
eyes.
in the studio. Yeah, it's awesome. It's really cool.
Yeah, well, see, look, with your video games and there's bombs and stuff going off in the background.
Yeah, I mean, I like having... I have, yeah. You have nicer gear though, Mike. I got lots of flashy lights. You got like nicer gear.
Hey, don't discredit my acoustic treatment back here. And then the spot in the wall, that's a little cubby where I put my keys and shit.
That's smart.
Langford's going for the beauty of simplicity.
Exactly.
My situation is usually I'm just like, where are my keys? I could use this.
Yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, the basic dealio is I'd like to have like this weekly thing probably where it's just literally coming in and talking about stuff that you're interested in the studio. Right? I want to make it uber geeky, you know, like just to have some kind of place, kind of like Pensato's place, but more interactive, like more visual. Like him, it's more like a one-on-one conversation. I would like to talk about like, you know, just mic techniques that you've used, or like even stuff like you just said with the iPhone, or even like controlling your computer with an iPad, or even like the philosophy of how you approach recording or songwriting, whatever. I'd like to span like and just let the conversation naturally flow into whatever, but have kind of like blocks of, okay, we're going to focus on you know, songwriting and production, and then you can focus on mixing or something like that. But I want to keep it pretty open-ended.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it's a total experiment for me in what people would actually want to see. You know, like I kind of like the idea of trying to bridge the gap between, you know, people that make records and, you know, the hobbyist listener, you know, and kind of giving them a little insight into what it's like to be in the studio, or, you know, what you feel when you record or something.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Do it yourself. It's too late for us.
Yeah, and I mean, I even stuff about, like, you know, views on piracy. I don't want to get into it too much because that's like a whole can of worms. But I mean, like, I'd like to kind of like touch on stuff like that, and, you know, different approaches of way of doing things nowadays. I don't know, Mike. What would you like to see out of a show, I guess?
Really, it's more like like you said, the sort of round table. I like Pensato's place because I learn stuff.
Yeah.
And frankly, you really, I mean, you never. I mean, ideally, you should read manuals, etc., and you will know what all of your software does and how all your plugins work. Everybody, put up your hand that's read any manual about your audio software. Yeah, we all have no hands. So I mean, when people just discover, I found this great plugin, it does this thing, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, I'm still learning a few tricks in Melodyne, and I'm actually just. Owen, we just finished a vocal session.
No.
Not that we used any Melodyne on his session, not at all.
No.
But saying, I mean, preference. Owen's actually asking me, you know, what's, you know, there's other things that do this, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, that's auto-tune, but you don't really want that. And you know, the why and wherefore of one of the points you brought up, like, when do you do it? I mean, we could tie into the Dave Grohl comment. It's not about being perfect or sounding exactly right, but there's certainly a point where I think that helper applications, you might call them, you know, Beat Detective, Autotune, Melodyne, any of that stuff. I think they're valuable if you're facilitating a performance that A, can be, it's something that the individual is capable of doing, and B, the performance is mostly there, and that's why I like Melodyne, because you are essentially, the thing is, you are essentially tied to the nature of the performance. You know, in Autotune, you go in and draw a line and say, you know, you did not articulate your note that way. We're going to change it to however the hell I want. Whereas Melodyne, you can do a lot, but it is working from the basic version of the performance. So
yeah, you keep the character of the performance, and you kind of just change the pitch more. I get, yeah. And I kind of agree that's the best way of approaching actually doing that. Or I guess I kind of like some of the stuff that's really, really extreme if it's done creatively, but I think a lot of people are just just throwing it on just way too much.
Well, yeah, but they're doing it in a lazy way. I think
yeah.
I think the essential essence of production has remained the same. What is the producer's job? Make sure it's good. And really, it's that simple. Like, make sure the performances are good, the sounds are good, the song is good, the parts are good. If you are, you know, like say, if you're using a tool and you're not good at it, then you should not be doing it.
Yeah.
So, you know, the badly tuned vocals or the badly cut drums or the stuff that you hear that's just, it's evidence of, I mean, people look at it as though, well, you're cheating because you timed the drums. Well, no, if I did it right, you'll never know. You'll just think the drummer is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, Dole? I mean, how do you feel about that?
For sure. Actually, I was going to chime in on the tuning thing. You can use Autotune the same way you use Melodyne, it just took longer. Melodyne won, or it's winning at least, because it had the interface that was so easy to use. You just throw it in there, it gives you the blocks, and then Autotune finally cut that. But in graphical mode, with drawing the straight lines, yes, I think that's lazy. But you can go in and it will trace the curves and stuff, and you can kind of manipulate it that way. It's just
that's right. You grab it by each end.
But between the two, I find it just depends on the production you're going for. When I hear country stuff, like pop country stuff, I hear Autotune.
Yeah.
When I hear like pop stuff, I hear
then
Autotune.
You have to have Autotune. Your stacks got to be Autotune.
Well, it's the brassy quality that you get from it. It's a production thing. If you don't do it, it's like people think the EQ's wrong, compression's wrong, or something. It's like, no, we just haven't tuned it that way. Meanwhile, as Turner was saying, like when we use Melodyne, I think it's a lot more transparent. I know where the artifacts are in it, especially if you throw like something like a de-esser on it, you can really hear the artifacts. Like if you just go into to just listen to the little frequency, you can really hear if someone's hit it hard with Melodyne stuff. But yeah, I think that the two are just tools, and it's all about what you want to do with it, and then leading into things like beat detective and time correction and stuff. As Turner was saying, if you do it right, no one really notices. I think I just got an email from a band today, and they're talking about not wanting, because everyone's on the Dave Grohl kick now, where no one wants to do anything post-recording. Like as soon as it comes into the cable, it's going straight onto straight into iTunes. It's like, yeah, that's cool, but it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
I was telling him, when production's done right, it's pretty transparent for the band. They shouldn't come in and go like holy shit, what happened? They should still be excited about it, but they shouldn't be like, who came in and replayed all this? Either you didn't do the work in the jam space, or you didn't do the work when you're in the live room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, something got missed, so that people need to leave and feel good about it and know that I've always believed you can raise it a letter grade. So if someone gives you a D and you can put it to a C, like, good for them. They shouldn't be in the band. But if someone gives you a B or, like, a solid A or something, and you can just, comp a couple spots and make it better, I don't think anyone's going to worry about that.
Yeah, what's wrong with better?
Well, some people know they're not better, I guess.
Well, I think among the biggest issues, that with the Grohl quote, I think there's an unfortunate sort of romanticism of a lot of these young bands that they see, Grohl did this and he says this, and they just went in and knocked that record out in a day. No, how many times did they not get the take they needed? How many times how long did they practice before that? And how long have they been practicing to get to the level they're at this point?
I think that's
how long have they
point.
been gigging together?
I think it's just how much recording experience do they have, but also, and I'll be the guy to say this. And they say that they did it on tape, and they didn't touch computers at all. I just can't believe that in this day and age. I'm sorry, I can't. Like, if someone's got a DeLorean and wants to, swing me by Dave Grohl's garage, and I can be like, yep, the Langford stamp approval, he's all on tape. I can't believe that.
I can believe it. I
can't.
But I think the thing is, it's just because they are at this point in their career, they're a ripping good live band. I mean, they're all great players, and with all due respect, they're not playing the most complex music you've ever heard.
No.
Yeah.
There's a lot of boom, crack, and that's okay. Taylor's a beast.
The vocals are a lot better on the albums than live, I'll tell you that.
I'm willing to bet that the vocals didn't come live off the floor. That I will say.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm not questioning that, but
is that is an interesting
question. To the actual
question.
production.
Are you guys? Do you think that you're eventually going to move more towards recording a band like all on the floor rather than trying to separate it out? Do you see yourselves moving more towards that?
Already doing it.
Record I'm doing right now is like that. We just track vocals after and a couple overdubs.
And doing that with the Cerebell record. Started with a trio, like a great. It was Bubba, Creighton Doan, and Pete Lesperance. So yeah, they can all play. Of course, I'm going to keep everything they do.
Yeah.
I'll add overdubs to it after the fact because it's going to be a lot more.
But you want the bleed
trio.
from the other.
It's a lot more lush than a trio, but getting the bones of it, just people playing, I'm loving it. It's just so much easier to make it feel like it's alive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I spend a lot of time with stuff that's done, bit by bit by bit. There's a lot of time spent after the fact. It can sound huge, and it can sound punchy, and it can have all those things, but it kind of sounds a little not alive.
Yeah.
It can sound, thin and stale.
So you kind of have to, that I find that is as much of an effort as
getting it right the first time.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, for me, it's really just a factor of enough isolation and enough attention to sonics. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But I do like the idea of just recording a band.
Mm.
Of course, if one of them sucked and there was bleed, that breaks up bands. Because you all have to play it again because your guitar player shit the bed.
Yeah.
Well, if you got the right isolation for it, like it's good just to keep the vibe there. I always think it's a great idea being able to do if you are going track by track, like do your guides all together.
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
Make sure that you get a good pass where everyone's like, yeah, that was right. That way you kind of always have that groove reference, but also everyone went into it feeling like we can play it this well. You come back to the room after and you hit play and it's like, yeah, that's what you guys did right now. You know, you got to scratch tracks when we go and track it for real with the bigger guitars, or because I do a lot of rock music. So it's Turner. When you go back and retrack it, it's like you always had that reference of what they came from and what you got it to, and the difference between, you know, when bands say they want to track it live, it's like, well, there's certain things we can't get if we track it live.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, I like the idea that it's a hybrid of both. You know, like you get the ideal performance, and then you can, like you said, you use the analogy of raising it to letter grade. You know, maybe you. Personally, I find I do a lot of work with the guitar parts after the fact, because maybe they're not quite locked up, or there's not, you know, the ideal version of a part. But you can always add that.
Yeah. Actually, one of the things too, but like not getting there, just think I always refer to it as genre sensitivity, and things like with rock music, if you need those.
Oh. Mike's computer just got mad.
That's okay. I'll send him a re-invite. Hold on. Actually,
that's the sound of Mike's laptop leaving.
Yeah, he said he was having troubles with the power adapter, that it kind of went into panic mode as soon as he did something. That's cool. I think I know where he was going with that, though. But yeah, have you, like, what have you been doing lately? Like, is it more rock stuff, or are you kind of branching off?
I'm trying to branch out a bit. I'm just working with. I've got 3 projects on the go right now. One's just wrapping, a band called Levy Step, who are sort of a bit of a southern rock band, somewhere between Kings of Leon and Three Doors Down.
Okay.
And there's the Cerebel stuff that's it's Americana. There's harmonicas, there's dobros, there's pedal steel.
Oh, nice.
Cellos. There's it's really fun. It's actually this actually. The digital world gives rise to the sort of things that I've been able to take advantage of, because, you know, the Americana thing's not really my current forte. Something I do love, but it's not something I do all the time. I've been doing the studio-to-studio trip. There's a guy by the name of Jim Hoke in Nashville, and you send Jim a track and you tell him what you're thinking. He specializes in sort of character instruments, color instruments like dobro, harmonica, pedal steel, all that stuff. And within hours, you usually got a track back. And it's super affordable. And the caliber of playing, I mean, he played with NRBQ, he's on Miranda Lambert records, he's on Alan Jackson records. Like, the guy's heavy. And he just, everything he sends back is like, well, that's freaking awesome. He's done his 10,000 hours, and he's a really good guy, because he actually says, I'm going to overplay, and you know,
you can kind of pick out whatever,
pick and choose and move around if you want.
Like, as a producer, you always like that, though, right? Yeah, I mean, you're like, you kind of, when it's a good player and they're playing tastefully, it's always nice to have more. Yeah.
How's that power supply treating you?
How's the what?
How's that power supply treating you?
Oh, power supply was fine. I was in the middle of something, and I guess it just kicked me out, and I was like, it said there was an error, and I'm like, did I just get the error, or did everyone get the error?
You're an error.
And I was like waiting, so I went back to working on stuff.
Oh, boo.
What did I miss?
I was just talking about the digital world being a great thing with the Cerebel project, and Lucas was asking what I'm working on, with Cerebel being Americana and not having access to those kind of players in my sort of circle of acquaintances. But now, you know, I've got this guy in Nashville who's, you know, an A-list player. Who, I mean, I sent him a track yesterday at about 11:30, and by 2 o'clock, I had his parts in the track.
That's awesome.
You know, played really, really well, and, you know, production value goes way up. So this is probably the ultimate opposite extreme of a band live off the floor. But like you were saying, Mike, if you get access to the people that are of that caliber of playing, and I can't get people to show up, like even walk into the studio and think about doing one song for what I can get tracks from these guys for.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be the future of a lot of things. Like I did a demo with the VP of Hangouts this about a month ago, demoing a VST that we made that you can dump into Ableton or Cubase or whatever, and you type in our server, you connect to us, and then it pipes it over direct into whatever other DAW that supports VST in real time. And you can be doing the video chat at the same time. That makes sense. So I can be talking to the player, and they're playing, piping in DAW, and the only real limitation is bandwidth. We can do lossless from here, though. I can do AIFF.
You have big pipe, though.
But we have big pipe, yeah. So, I mean, that's like, you know, future limitation.
Well, I mean, that being said, even Pete was doing something for some people in Spain, Pete Lesperance, and he just had them on Skype, and they actually have a sort of a DAW thing where you can use a line in rather than necessarily like the mic on the laptop or whatever. So they could talk to him about what they did or didn't like about the guitars he was doing, and you know, it was like they were sitting in on the session, but they were just, you know.
And now with stuff like with FaceTime on all the Apple devices and how easy they're making it, even with that integrated with the Mac operating system now, I mean, the idea of phoning into a session and, you know, having it projected on an Apple TV, I mean, that's one thing that we're going to do. For doing the show is have like an Apple TV plugged in, and you can AirPlay from a MacBook Pro over to it, and it's really, really easy. So that kind of like, that's something you can even do in the studio, where you're like, the line of sight is like really easy to pipe from laptop to TV, and that kind of integration is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes down to the whole idea of technology as a facilitator, which is a good thing, but technology as a crutch, not so much.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that that's what we're gonna go overboard before it gets to a place where it's like you get back to the song is important. But I think that a lot of things have to happen before we actually get there. But I think it's eventually headed there when everybody has ultimate access to everything. Then what's important?
Well, content is king.
Yeah, I think that more and more tech comes out, and easier it is for people to collaborate on stuff. Like, I like the idea of just, you know, being able to be in a Hangout with somebody from India and have them record sitar on something that you're working on in a manner of, you know, 20 minutes, let's say. That idea being really, really easy. I mean, I don't know how far away that is, but yeah, I like to see that.
The question is, how are they going to bill you?
How are they going to bill you? And yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. Do you want to talk a bit about like new models of making money with music?
If you have one, I'm all ears.
I mean, I think one thing that we're kind of experimenting with is the idea of like giving people insight into, you know, not your everyday life, but insight into the recording process and that whole thing, to actually incentivize people into joining a Kickstarter that you're doing or something like that. There's been insane amount of success with Kickstarter campaigns for making records, and not small amounts of money. And I mean, I think a big part of that is people want to see art in conjunction with technology, because that's where everybody is, you know, that's the medium that everybody's on. So that's like the thing that Bjork did, like that idea that I really like the idea that software developers and musicians working together, like from the get-go almost, is kind of the future, I think, in being able to be the medium so people can actually, you know, experience your music in the right way, I guess. I don't know. I think that stuff like that, getting people excited about music in that way, and then having it drive digital sales. I don't know, because the overhead is so low with the Kickstarter. If they're funding the actual recording time, and that funds the record, and then you do have digital sales, but that also you know drives touring and everything else.
That's what I think the best part about things like Kickstarter is like the record should be paid for before you even start.
Yeah.
You know, the band's free and clear. You know, if you got enough fans to make a $5,000 record or $15,000 record or a $50,000 record, if you've got your fan base already in place for it, and you go, you know what, guys, we need this to help pay for these things. It's all hard costs. Because really, the musicians aren't getting paid to make these records. It's the production people, it's the studios, it's people involved that are getting paid. I think the band's hoping to get paid on the back end now. But if they don't have to put the money up front to pay for these hard costs, I think it's good for them. So,
Yeah,
and also, like, I've talked to people, too, that have talked about, you know, like, back-end deals and points and stuff. I really don't feel like guys on my side of the fence should be getting those things. You know, I look at us as, like, we're plumbers, we're electricians, like, we're builders. When the job's done, we move on to the next one. To try to keep, you know, staking a claim on something that really someone else created. It's their art. They hired you to help them make it. So.
That being said, I've never really had to worry about any of my back-end deals because, well...
Because they never come through anyways, probably. But yeah, it's just like, I think with Kickstarter, it's like, I think more bands should really be looking at that. And it's great seeing bands that are looking for $300 to try to get some mastering done on their EP, or what was it? 1,000 Foot Crutch got like $105,000 or something crazy. They asked for 40 and they got over 100 grand, and it's like, good for them. Peter Broke Guys represent. But
yeah,
it's like
good for them.
Yeah, but the thing is, you just throw it out there and see what happens. You know, drift your fans towards it.
I think it's like the sign of the times where, you know, you can use things like social media to drive traffic towards those things. And if people like what you do, I think that if it's in the right place, they'll support it from the get-go. I mean, I think it just comes back to making a service better than piracy. Like, honestly, like, for a long time, that's been the problem, for me at least, that it's easier to pirate music than it is to buy it.
I think that's the catch, is you can't steal it because it's not done yet.
Yeah.
You know, you're pre-sales.
It flips the model on its head.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot of bands out there that can pull down. You know, it's hard for them to pull down $5,000 or $10,000 to do something. Not just making a record, but just, you know, trying to get some tour support, or if they need gear. I saw there was a band on there that needed a new van. It's like, sure, whatever you want to put up there. See if people will throw $5 or $10 at it. And then also knowing some of the people that, you know, that are contributing on there, they've donated or pitched in money to like 40 different things. You know, it's $5 here, it's $10 there, but it really does add up. And knowing how many people have access to it, how many people can get on there. It's one thing for a band to ask, you know, 10 or 20 family members for $100 each, but to help with it. But it's another thing to be able to go online and people all over the world can, I'm assuming it's all over the world, can pitch in on it.
It's fairly universal.
It's a numbers game.
For a lot of it, yeah.
A label should do that with P&A.
Yeah.
Pardon?
It's smart to say, how about you guys do that with P&A? That would be fucking brilliant. I wonder if that would be fucking out. Sure. I don't know how to do that.
Well, I think the thing is that, you know, with the Kickstarter thing, it is ideal because it's, you know, it is driven by the fans, and you've earned that. Like the word I use often is covenant. You have a covenant between you and your fans. They trust you. They implicitly want to hear your music. Like, I know when I'm into a band, I will buy their record before I hear it. I don't have to go and hear, do I like the 3 songs? No, you know what? New Model Army releasing a record, I'm buying it. Killing Joe puts out a record, get it, got it. Day comes out. And that's, you know, that's obviously just an extension of how successful you are at having fans, which means you don't suck.
But I think
the other consideration with I do like the Kickstarter idea and sort of investing your fans in your ongoing success. It does make them feel ownership, and that's good. But I think one of the points where you mentioned digital sales, Lucas, and I think one of the issues there is it now is easier. iTunes you set it up once, it's click and you're done. Mm-hmm. But I think the price point might still be wrong.
Right.
I think you would sell more than double the units at half the price.
Yeah, I totally agree there.
You know,
I mean, and that's one thing. That's one thing with Google Music that you can do, even though it does not have, it doesn't have the worldwide support that iTunes does yet. But that's one thing that I think that iTunes will be pushed into one way or another, or if not, I mean, Google will, you know, have an alternative for that sooner or later. Because that I definitely agree. Like I'd like to give it away for like 20 cents, 25 cents. You know, like if people are in the ecosystem. Yeah, if people were in the ecosystem, and that's kind of what I'm looking for on iTunes as well, and I'm more hopeful about it looking towards the future, is that more and more people are growing up with iPads, and the iOS system is so locked down that unless you really try hard, you're not going to be able to get pirated music onto it anymore. Or it's a lot harder if you're just on an iPad or just on an iPhone.
The issue with it being just on an iPad is that it's all going to be cloud stored anyway.
Yeah. I mean, do you guys have the iTunes Match thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that idea that they want to basically flush all your illegal files so that you're in the ecosystem. At least that's what they're trying to do to me. They're trying to get you locked into that idea of always stay inside of iTunes. And, you know, from now on we'll give you a free pass on everything that you've done up until now, as long as moving forward you actually buy the songs. I guess time will tell to see how well that actually works.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I like. I mean, I think the Kickstarter thing is just one of many things that can be done, and that's kind of the power of you know, working with software developers and getting press in other ways as well. Just because you're doing something innovative or something like that is also beneficial as well. I don't know. I don't necessarily like the idea that artists would have to do that to get noticed. I kind of think it'll happen though. The idea of the art is just not enough, that you have to have something accompanying it to make it stand up against everything else. You guys have any thoughts on that?
The product? As in the end product, or the packaging, or just live show?
As in like the delivery system, as in how people consume music in general, I guess.
I think that the package needs to be better. I feel like in 5 or 10 years, the idea of buying a band's album, it's going to be, you know, the DVD that comes with it or whatever it is. Like, there's a visual that goes with it. There's road stuff. There's all these things. I think there's more players that can get involved, be it people who are making videos for the bands, or people who are doing documentaries about bands, or people who are doing artwork, like actual artists doing artwork for bands. I think that's where people can start coming together on some of these ideas.
Yeah, I don't even know if the record's got that long in it, to be honest. I don't know if records, as in albums, whatever, I don't know if they even have that long in it. I'm not, you know...
I do, because there's still bands that want to make them, and as long as there's people that want to make those records that are like concept records that aren't just 12 songs that I'll, you know, fucking throw them in a band and they're done, but it's like, you know, some bands want to do EP, like a lot of bands want to do EPs these days, but they're still, to me, they're complete thoughts. You know,
would you guys say it's more effective nowadays, given the way the internet works and the way that people get music or get excited about music, that it'd be more advantageous to like release a song every month rather than releasing an album every year?
My train of thought's definitely at least a song, not necessarily a song every month, but if you release 12 songs in a year, you're on top of things, at minimum. Yeah. So, sorry, were you going to say, Turner?
Along those lines. Sorry, 1 second.
Yeah.
The thing that I run into when people come in and they say, well, we don't want to do a whole EP. You know, we're just going to release a song and then a song and then a song, and then they try to apply that to the studio, and that just doesn't make sense. You don't want to amortize the cost and time of setting up drums and getting drum tones and doing all those things and do a song or two and then leave, and then a song or two and leave. That just doesn't make sense.
No, it's not a good use of
time. You have
time.
that, like you said, whether or not it's, you know, a thematically, lyrically, or otherwise musically unified collection of songs, they are the songs you wrote in that period of time. This is a snapshot of what this band or artist is creatively at this time. I think it's important to record them at the same time. How you choose to meter them out, whether you used to be called releasing singles. So, you know, are you releasing a new song or an album, or do you just not release the album at all and just meter it out so that you've got a continual flow of new content?
Yeah.
You know, at that point, that is absolutely the death knell of the album, because, I mean, unless it's, I suppose.
How do you feel about that as like a music fan, though? Do you like versus like a producer versus music fan and going towards
Well, as a fan, I like records. I like to lose myself in a whole record. I mean, I just bought the Gautier record a couple of weeks ago, and it's outstanding. Takes a little while to get into some parts of it, but it's fantastic. And I don't think I would be as connected to what he's doing musically if I was only able to listen to a song and then remain connected to him enough for the next month to get that next song, the next album, or however long.
Well, that's the thing. It's passive listening if it's one song at a time.
Agreed.
You know, like you can't possibly care enough to sit down and listen. Well, to listen to something that's like 3 or 4 minutes long and then move on to the next, move on to the next one. Something has your attention for like 45, 50 minutes. You know, like it's a composition that way, I find.
Yeah.
So, and I still think there's enough bands that still want to do that stuff. And with the cost of record production going down so much, the fact that they can do these in GarageBand, they can do these on their own time, they can do these with their buddy in the basement. Records are still going to get made, and they're still going to get passed around, and you're going to hear wicked albums that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, the Gautier record, he did make it on a MacBook Pro.
I worked on this thing for 6 years now.
Yeah.
So
the MacBook Pro that I'm looking at right now is more powerful than the computers up until this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Mike, I have one of the early Intel Mac Pro dual quads, and I got one of the new MacBook Pro Intel i7s, and it's
your laptop
faster.
Murders your other machine.
Yeah, it's retarded. The only main selling point of the Mac Pro is I have like 4 terabytes internal, and it's like
that's the difference.
It's the hog is the storage machine, but in terms of of speed, it's insane how good they are. Like they're just beautiful machines.
Well, again, it comes back to they're hopefully just facilitators.
Yeah.
I mean, Gautier, Wally, the dude, built a lot of sample-based instruments. Like he uses a lot of the control thing. It's probably more like the thing that's over there. It's like a 12 by 12 little buttons, which I know nothing about.
That's why I have all this set up the way that I do, is because I want technology to get out of the way. I have everything pre-wired, so I don't have to think about it. It's literally just like everything is wired to everything. Like I hit, as soon as I change MIDI, any BPM inside the computer, it changes it across everything, across every single device. So like having the ability to just, okay, I want to record a guitar part, loop that, grab the bass, record over top of that without really thinking about or wiring anything in. I think that's the major benefit of technology, and it can get in the way of like hashing out a song, but it can also lead to you coming up with a lot more ideas because you can get them out there so quickly.
Well, yeah, if you know your toolbox well enough, as soon as you get it's the same thing, I guess. Well, that's
the delicate balance too, is that you get so lost in
the
new
but
gadgets.
Still, it's like when Inspirato strikes, you're ready to go. And that's why, like when I'm working on stuff, I like to have everything set up in stations. So that if we need to work on a guitar part or grab a percussion part or whatever, it's like we're not really dicking around trying to get sounds up as much as just arm the tracks. Okay, go.
Yeah.
We'll get a sound together, but it's like I like it to be as transparent as possible. And the way that you got your stuff set up, it's not like you need to wait 5 minutes to plug shit in and get stuff going. It's like, oh, I want to do this. Okay, boom, we're ready.
Yeah, the idea is that like nothing kills the creative process more than like having the spinning wheel of death come on you or something like that. And a lot of the time I like write as I go, and it's kind of like you're coming up with parts and just stacking stuff as because I'm not like playing one thing. I'll do like a full production track, and being able to just like add drums, guitar, then synth, and then just do that quickly means that I can be better at what I do, basically.
Well, yeah. I think this actually brings up a good point too, because Turner and I both have Axe FX Ultras. Turner's got lots of guitar stuff.
Order an Axe too.
But the thing is like as soon as I used it, because Turner got one, I heard it at Pocket, and I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I remember looked at the waveforms and like, okay, because I did some studying because there's tons of guitar amps there, as you can see on the side of the wall there. I checked one night between the real amps and amp farm amps and pod amps, to see what the waveforms look like and how jaggy they were. Because I find that's where the tone all kind of gets lost. And then the Axe effects stuff, like it still stays pretty round. So that to me, like they still stack really well. So the last couple of things I've done have just been all Axe effects, like straight into the computer. And when you talk about workflow and just technology and stuff, you know, in 5 years, you know, are we putting microphones in front of amps anymore? You know, we still can, obviously, but for workflow, it's like, you know, we want a matchless or we want a reverb, twin reverb or something like that. We can just call it up. So we have our own settings for stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
the danger of that, and this has always been a danger, you know, like you said about the toolbox, you know, when we worked with Bob Rock, you know, Bob had his way of working, and, you know, he would stack up these 7 amps through these cabinets, 57, 421, Neve 1073, blah, 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 like that was his chain.
Yeah.
And you got that giant Bob Rock guitar sound, which is really quite nice, and yes, the tone of the player, should it be a player that has an identity, it comes from their hands. But if you put them through the same, you know, you put them through the same sausage grinder, it's still going to look an awful lot like the sausage.
Yeah, especially like
at the other
heavy
end.
distortion. Yeah.
You know, and, well, no, whether it's heavily distorted or not, you know, and most of the amps weren't. But it's really, that's my only worry about the Axe effects is. And then I suppose it comes back to where we started with some of this, is it's incumbent on the producer and the artist to not be lazy, and not say, you know, I have my 10 main sounds in my Axe effects that I love, and I know I want that sound. Boom, there it is, and I can be fast about it. But by that, I'm going to start painting with the same brushes all the time.
Right.
But I think that all changes when the next generation comes up, because they don't know that. Mm-hmm. They won't know any different from plugging into their interface, going into GarageBand or going into whatever. And there's guitar stuff in there because they don't have, you know, $4,000 for a high gain amp. It's in there. It's in the box already. So I think the trade-off is with kids just being creative and being able to experiment and not being limited to how much money mom and dad have.
Yeah.
In order to buy this stuff. Like I was lucky. I started with drums. My grandpa took me in the music store, said, "What do you want?" I'm 11. I want drums. This is awesome. But not every kid's got those luxuries in life. But imagine you have an iPad that's got a little percussion kit on it, so you can still do your beats and stuff, and it still sounds decent. You know, your kick, snare, hi-hats, and like you can still play all these things. Or even getting a MIDI interface that's got pads on it. Like you can still get your ideas across without having the authentic gear for it. So I think that's going to open up a lot of options.
How do you guys feel about that? Like trading off one for the other, trading off like the art of, you know, recording essentially for having easier access to songwriting and just getting ideas out there. You think it's a good trade-off, or?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I as much as I do love, you know, the messing around with the sonics and that.
Yeah, because you're still a guitar, like you're still a songwriter.
Yeah, most of the time, no, not really. Most of the time, I'm just like, can somebody just do this annoying shit? I mean, it's not like I don't miss sitting around while the engineer aligned the tape deck and calibrated the tape deck.
Exactly, right. But there's guys that swear by that's how it needs to be. Like that's engineering.
Well, yeah.
You know, and there's studios that swear by that.
That's nice.
But I don't know that. Like, me near
I was never even given the option. Yeah, it's craziness.
No, but I think the thing is that it doesn't. It's not. That's just gear. It's not ideas. You know, the ideas.
That's how I feel with all gear in a way. At a point, it's like whatever you grow up with, whatever you can kick ass with, go for it.
Sure enough.
So. I think it's just time and place. Like there's.
Well, how many times has the wrong thing turned out to be the most killer development?
Yeah.
First time somebody pushed all 4 buttons on an 1176 in, and they stuck. Like, wow, you're not supposed to do that. You're going to break that.
See, it's guys like you that read the manual that wouldn't have known that.
The guy in the white jacket is going, well, you can't do that. That's not right. Putnam made 4 buttons for 4 settings. You can't jam them all in. And now it's one of the most. That's why I have the blue stripe, because it does what it's not supposed to do, and it's so fucking cool that you do that. I mean, maybe, you know, a classic engineer from that era would shudder at that. You know, you don't put a single ribbon mic and smash the crap out of it Well, if you don't do that, you don't get when the levee breaks.
Yeah. You don't get, some of the character and some of the memorable stuff that's happened. I mean, you don't get, like, artistic recordings in a way. It's like the bridging the gap between being, like, creative and being an engineer at the same time,
Joe Meek said it best. If it sounds right, it is right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
and
guys,
I mean, that's
sorry. I want to chime in while we're on the topic of outboard. Okay, what was the Focusrite thing? The liquid channel?
Yeah.
Does everyone here think that didn't do very well?
I had one for.
No one has it.
I know.
Of course you have it, Lucas. Yeah.
I know. I had one for. I had one for a while, but it wasn't running with Pro Tools because of the delay compensation at the time, so I got rid of it, and I just never got it.
Liquid mix or liquid channel?
Liquid. That was liquid mix. It was like the plug-in channel thing.
Yeah, because liquid channel was the one that was supposed to model all the mic pre's and EQs and compressors. Right. Why did that fail? Because to me, it was the same idea as pods. It's like when it came out, why didn't it catch on if it's so much cheaper and you could get a rack of 8 and have whatever you wanted? Because now we're getting to that in the box. We're like, you get your UAD stuff or whatever, and you got, 20 instances of whatever hardware you want, but why is the hardware versions of these things not catching on?
Well, I think at that point it just wasn't that good.
Yeah. Well, why did
the first pod not do what the XFX is doing?
Hey, if you tilt this down, you got one in there, I'm sure.
What's that?
If you tilt this down, you still got one.
Yeah.
I got my XT as doorstop in the other room, so.
It's a Pod Pro. And
okay. But you know what I mean, though? It's just like I think it's the same thing across the board. Like, at what point, do people stop drooling over 1073s when you can get a modeled one that's got 8 in there, it's got 16 in there, and it's $5,000?
Yeah, I think that's an inevitability.
Then what happens?
I think the algorithms are getting so good that once iPads are like a thin slate of glass, and we're transferring stuff almost wirelessly over, like you have. I mean, all these things are coming. These are all inevitabilities, even if we don't really want to think about them. I mean,
well, it's all like the guy who drew up plans for the plane, but just didn't have the materials yet.
Right.
It's like the math is there, science is
those
there,
are coming so rapidly now with iPad development and how readily available they are. It's crazy what I can do now. Like some of the core gaps or even the Moog ones on there, and what you can do with it already. Even the rec table stuff, like that idea of having blocks of samples and putting it on a table and being able to affect it, and just I really like the touch screen elements of stuff. I'd like to be able to replace like all the controllers with like one slab of glass.
I see it getting down to just modules, like iPad modules or whatever. I thought that for the longest time. That's why I think stuff like Control 24 is like a waste of time. Fine for the schools, I guess, if you need to put them in disco mode to impress people, but for real world use, it's like, who's got space for those things? And we're all working with the mouse pretty much. It'd be awesome, like a tactile surface for me, because I didn't grow up with consoles either. Like a tactile surface that it can be whatever you want. That being a tablet, that's the way to go. I would hold off for that. So
I'll admit to working on the mouse so much that the little vinyl strip at the bottom of the console. This guy here, over where my mouse is, I wore the texture off it. The vinyl is actually so smooth where my mouse usually works that I had to put masking tape on the console because the mouse wasn't tracking anymore. It was so optically flat. Like,
oh man, have you guys
not be here that long?
Have you guys tried one of these? The new
yeah, Chris Perry's using one.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't go back. I mean, I got so used to it on the laptop, like how good the trackpad was that I really want, like, I can picture how Pro Tools will be in like a couple years where you can have a touch screen element and you can like slice and edit with gestures, like multi-touch gestures, and the idea like of that is kind of in its infancy with that, but it's really cool. It's a lot easier on the hands more than anything.
I was using the Magic Mouse for a bit and it just wasn't integrating well. It left.
Yeah, I have one and it's literally it got used for about 2 weeks and it was weird. It started hurting
They're
my
not
hand after a while.
aerodynamically sound, I'll tell you that. Wouldn't quite make it to the kitchen.
Oh, that's good. All right.
Hi guys, well, I'm gonna make like a baby and head out.
Yeah, same.
Well,
But
long day.
this was really good though. This is a good test run. More than anything, I want to see how this actually shows up on YouTube and how to format it for embedding and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, because we can obviously. I think to do this in future, we'll, schedule it and have sort of more structured.
Schedule. And the main thing is I for right now I just wanted to make sure that it would record to YouTube okay. Next time we'll do kind of like a chat style. Like I'll do a post earlier in the week with questions to areas to go into, because I really want to crowdsource everything as much as possible. Be totally transparent. Whatever people want to hear about, I think the access to people that are specialized, that are professional at what they do, through mediums like this is really, really encouraging. Like there was a hangout with people from CERN, and top scientists, and really just talking to normal people, and this idea that people can get educated this way and even get more excited about the recording process, and maybe liven it up a little bit, whatever.
Yeah, but CERN, did they deal with the whole Einstein was wrong, things are faster than the speed of light, or there was a cable loose in our
Damn monster cable.
I'm not kidding, dude. It was like a month and change ago they released a paper that they saw particles, neutrinos moving faster than the speed of light.
I heard about that.
But they were like, oh, we might have had a bad cable.
That's a little embarrassing.
I love that. It's like, Einstein, the nature of the world is different. What's that? Is that unplugged? Shit!
Somebody got fired for that one.
All right, guys. Well, look, we'll let us know. Reach out.
I'll schedule it, and yeah, we'll figure it out. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Sounds good. See ya.
Cheers.